Hello, I'm Mike Delahan, and I've had the privilege of serving on Journey's management team for about 20 years, which I suspect Pastor Michael thinks is about 19 years too long. That's because if you consider Michael the Chief Executive Officer of Journey, I should be considered the CWC of Journey, which stands for Chief Wisecracker, and most of my wisecracks are directed at him. All kidding aside, we have a wonderful leadership team at Journey, and our overseers and management team have had the great privilege of building deep relationships and friendships with each other and with our staff. We are blessed to be on this journey with each other and with each of you. Thanks for joining us today. Despite my 20 years of service to Journey, the reason I am delivering the message today is I inadvertently volunteered myself. You would think after 20 years I would know how things at Journey work by now. What happened was, a few months ago, I sent Michael a video from YouTube and said, this might be the basis of a Sunday morning message. And relatively quickly, I got an email back from him and he said, I agree. When would you like to deliver it? That's why I am here today. Well, since I am paid to create content and give speeches at work, it's a joy and a blessing to put what I have learned along the way into use, creating today's message. From his LinkedIn profile, I found this in the About section for Simon Sinek. It says, Simon Sinek is an unshakable optimist who believes in a bright future and our ability to build it together. Simon's why is to inspire people to do what inspires them so that together, each of us can change our world for the better. Now, one thing that does strike me as ironic is Simon's last name sounds like Sinek, but it's spelled S-I-N-E-K. The Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary defines a cynic as one who believes that human contact is motivated wholly by self-interest. It's ironic. A guy named Sinek describes himself as an unshakable optimist who believes in a bright future and our ability to build it together. With a vision to change the way businesses think, act, and operate, Simon and his team work with leaders and organizations in nearly every industry to help transform company culture and to create a better working world. As a trained ethnographer, had to look this one up, which means one who specializes in, quote, detailed observation of people in their natural environments, with the idea that we can better understand people when we can see them do what they do, rather than when we ask them what they do. So by observation, Simon has discovered remarkable patterns about how the greatest leaders and organizations think, act, and communicate. Now, he's fascinated by the people and organizations that make the greatest and lasting impact on the world. He has devoted his life to sharing his thinking and leading a movement to inspire people to do the things that inspire them. Simon may best be known for popularizing the concept of why in his first TED Talk in 2009. With more than 37 million views, it has since become one of the most watched TED Talks on TED.com. In case you're not familiar, TED stands for technology, entertainment, and design. TED is a nearly 40-year-old organization, and their tagline is ideas worth spreading. Their website describes their organization as, quote, a nonprofit devoted to spreading ideas, usually in the form of a short, powerful talk that is 18 minutes or less. TED began in 1984 as a conference where technology, entertainment, and design converge, and today TED covers almost all topics from science to business to global issues in more than 100 languages. Now wait a minute. Did anyone catch how many minutes the typical TED Talk is? It's supposed to be 18 minutes or less. Uh-oh. Did anyone start a timer when I began this message? I'm not sure if I'll hit the 18-minute mark. Well, back to our message. Simon is a best-selling author, and he shares his ideas in several books. Start with Why, Leaders Eat Last, Together is Better, Find Your Why, and The Infinite Game. Though I'm not going to show you a clip from Simon's famous TED Talk, Start with Why, I will show you several clips from a TED Talk called Most Leaders Don't Even Realize What Game They Are In. Like this TED Talk, our message today will focus on empathy. So let's look at this first clip.
Someone will go through life just never really finding joy or fulfillment, and everything's just fine. How's your job? It's fine. How are your friends? They're fine. They'll go from job to job to job, hoping that the next one sticks. They go from relationship to relationship, hoping that the next one is the love that I've been looking for. They don't know how to ask for help, and it makes them feel even worse. So you have an insecure generation that doesn't have coping mechanisms. They want it all instantaneously. The problem is life, relationships, career are not destinations. Like, look, I found the job I love. It's the same with love. It's like, I found love. No, you didn't. You work hard every single day to stay in love. It's a journey.
The clip ended with, you work every single day to stay in love. It is a journey. So today at Journey Church, let us go on a journey toward being more empathetic. I know this video clip makes the message seem geared toward millennials, but be ready, there will be a plot twist. Now, empathy is defined by Simon as, quote, caring about the human being, not just their output. And Simon identifies 4 issues that today's millennial generation struggles with. Now, if we level set and define millennials as those that were born from roughly 1980 through the year 2000, people that today are between the ages of 22 and 42, think out there in the audience, if you will, are you a millennial? Do you know at least one millennial? Or maybe, most importantly, do you find yourself dealing with millennial colleagues at work? The first challenge Simon identifies for this generation is low self-esteem. And some say the origin of this low self-esteem comes from growing up in an age where it's often easy to have something you want just because you want it. As an example, somewhere along the way, likely with good intentions, we invented participation trophies. It turns out there's now scientific research that shows these participation trophies are demotivating. and they're harmful to work ethic. If you're familiar with the law of unintended consequences, this may be an example. As the millennial generation graduated into the real world, they faced the harsh reality life is a journey and it requires hard work, not just participation. The image with which this generation was taught to view life becomes challenged and cloudy upon entry into the work world. The result is that the millennial generation is documented to have grown up with lower self-esteem than prior generations. Thankfully, this generation also grew up with social media, and that will fix these self-esteem problems, right? Not exactly. The world of Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat is a curated world where users offer up what they want their life to be, not what it is. Research indicates social media promotes feelings of exclusion, not inclusion. It promotes destructive comparisons in areas like material possessions and body image. Clearly, social media is not the answer for improving self-esteem. Let's look at some interesting thoughts from Simon on the role of technology in general.
Then we add in technology. There's a chemical in our body called dopamine. Dopamine is responsible for the feelings we get when we find something we're looking for or we accomplish something we set out to accomplish. You know that great feeling you get when you cross something off your to-do list, or when you win the game, when you hit the target, right? Win the client, get the promotion, whatever it is. Now, other substances, other things that release dopamine include alcohol, nicotine, gambling. That's what makes us feel good when we engage with those things, and it's the root of a lot of addiction. Now, we also know that dopamine is released with cell phones and social media. So that bing, buzz, flash, and beep that we get from our phones that feels so good, it releases dopamine. We like getting it. Yes, we all hate all the emails, but we love the bing, right? We've all been in this position. You know, you're feeling a little bit down, you're feeling a little bit sorry, maybe feeling a little bit sad. And so what do? We send out 10 texts to 10 friends. Hi, 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 hi. And we hope that they write back because it feels good, right? So now we have a young generation with basically unfettered access to social media and cell phones. We have age restrictions on alcohol, we have age restrictions on smoking, and we have age restrictions on gambling. We have no age restrictions on this other dopamine-producing device called social media or cell phones. It's the equivalent of throwing open the liquor cabinet and telling our young adolescents, I know this is a stressful time, try the vodka, it'll get you through these hard times.
So, what does the Bible say about self-esteem? Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. We also hear, for we are God's handiwork. We're created in Christ Jesus to do good works which God prepared in advance for us to do. And then a final verse for this section. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. So think about those verses. God be with you. We are God's handiwork, and God has plans to prosper us and give us hope and a future. How much better is that than any participation trophy or social media app? So the next issue for the millennial generation is the challenge of coping with stress. The Christian psychologist Dr. Henry Cloud teaches that two things God wired us to crave are structure and relationships. Has a generation grown up right before our eyes that has a better relationship with their screens and their social network than with their family and friends? If so, what are the consequences? One result is that during times of turmoil, those without deep, in real life relationships have trouble handling and processing stress. Members of this generation have readily admitted they don't know where to turn when they're stressed or depressed. They may try to substitute online interactions for real in-person interactions, but extreme examples of these challenges show in rising rates of depression, suicide, and overdoses in this generation. If the extreme examples above do not occur, often people go through life as shown in the first video clip without experiencing joy. Instead of joy, everything in life is fine. Meh, blah, ho-hum. These people just go through life merely trying to exist. Have you ever heard the idea that when you spell Bible, the letters B-I-B-L-E stand for basic instructions before leaving Earth? That's pretty cool. Well, what basic instructions can we find in the Bible regarding coping with stress? The Bible says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." The Bible also says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving present your requests to God." And then our last Bible verse for this section, "We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." So think about these verses. Jesus is always present for those who are stressed. How cool is that? And then God is waiting to receive our requests related to anything. Does anything include stress? Yes, because it includes anything. And then we learn that God works in all things. Does he work just in the good things? Just the stress-free things? No. God works in all things, including those that give us stress. So Simon moves on in his message to talk about that the millennial generation has some challenges and tends to be impatient. Now, time out. I can't resist one of my favorite dad jokes here. And yes, I realize I will have a price to pay when my 4 teenage daughters hear this joke again. Oh well, here goes. My initials are MD. But do you know why I'm not a doctor? Because I don't have any patience. Do you get it? All right, back to our message. Is the millennial generation impatient? If so, how do they show it? Many observations of this generation mistake signs of entitlement for what really is impatient. So let's see. As a society, we have I want it now kind of a microwave mentality. And we now have next day service for nearly everything from Amazon, combined with an idea of why would anyone go to the movies when you can just stream straight into your house what you want? And anymore, who waits for the next episode of a TV show to come out when you can just binge an entire TV series? And then we wonder why people are impatient. Really? Life has conditioned us to be impatient. And the challenge is that this instant access, instant gratification model does not apply very well to everyday life or developing a career. Life, love, and a career are all journeys. That's why today's message is titled, Life is a Journey. In each, it's not just the destination that's important, it's also the journey along the way. I heard a speaker once say, quote, "The steps that led to where I am in my career are only clear now that I look back, because they sure are not what I had planned when I was looking forward." You know, you may have heard that boxer Mike Tyson said something similar to that, but it was a little bit less eloquent when he said, "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face." So I think we all understand life does tend to throw us a few punches, and some of them are right in the face. So where are we in the journey of this message? We are talking about an insecure generation that doesn't have coping mechanisms, that wants instant gratification. What could possibly go wrong? Well, let's turn back to the Bible for some wisdom about patience. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Be joyful in hope. There's that word. Patient in affliction. Faithful in prayer. The end of a matter is better than its beginning, and patience is better than pride. That first verse from James chapter 1, verse 4, about letting perseverance finish its work, it talks about patience and impatience with another P word, perseverance. Perseverance reminds me of another leadership coach like Simon Sinek. Have you ever heard of Angela Duckworth? She wrote a book called Grit, in which she defines grit as a combination of passion and perseverance for a singularly important goal. And she further describes that grit is applied over a long period of time. And she attributes the ability to show grit to be a higher predictor of success than even intelligence. In that verse in James chapter 1, verse 4, we're called to let perseverance finish its work so that we can be mature and complete, not lacking anything. This is a good plan for millennials, or for anyone for that matter, and it also seems to be close to the complete opposite of impatient. And then what did Romans 12:12 mean when it calls on us to be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer? Well, here Paul understands our lives are not problem-free, much less worry-free, but we're reminded if we are joyful about what is to come in the afterlife and to pray faithfully on our way to it, we will be empowered to face our challenges with patience. I previously commented about someone seeing the steps of their career clearly when looking back, and that was before I had found Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 8. And it says, "The end of a matter is better than its beginning, and patience is better than pride." It's hard to judge something in its middle. So for example, if you were asked right now, "Hey, how's Mike's message going?" You might say, "Well, I'm not really sure because I'm not sure how it's going to end." And that would be completely rational. This Bible verse also tells us to see how things unfold rather than pridefully assume that we know where they're going. All right, our final millennial challenge that Simon addresses is the environment that we've created for the millennial generation. The corporate environment into which we release our millennials, some would suggest, emphasizes profits over people with a really strong "what have you done for me lately" mentality. And when combined with the fragility of the millennial mindset we have already described, we can then see how you have a chance for some colossal conflict. The corporate mindset can cause workers to be afraid to communicate and collaborate, to live in community, because they feel that they may be targeted during the next round of layoffs. Here's how Simon describes this environment.
Literally created cultures in which every single day everybody comes to work and lies, hides, and fakes. And we're asking our youngest generation to work and succeed and find themselves and build their confidence and overcome their addiction to technology and build strong relationships at work. We're asking them to do this, and these are the environments we've created. We keep saying to them, "You're the future leaders." We're the leaders now. We're in control. What are we doing? This is what empathy means. It means if there's an entire generation struggling, maybe it's not them. It's like, the common factor in all my failed relationships? Me. It's not a generation. It's not them. They're not difficult or hard to understand. They're human beings like the rest of us, trying to find their way, trying to work in a place where they feel that someone cares about them as a human being. By the way, that's what we all want. In other words, it's not even generational. It's all of us. This is the practice of empathy, that if we're struggling to communicate to someone, if we're struggling to help someone be at their natural best, I'm tired of people saying to me, "How do I get the best out of my people?" Really? That's what you want? They're like a towel, you just wring them. How can I get the most out of them? No, how do I help my people be at their natural best? Right? We're not asking these questions. We are not practicing empathy. We have to start by practicing empathy and relate to what they may be going through. And it will profoundly change the decisions we make. It will profoundly change the way we see the world.
The cure for our environmental issue is empathy. And did you see the plot twist in that last video clip? If we want to help millennials or anyone around us, what should we do? Be empathetic. Care more about each other. Spend more time in relationship with each other. And will just the millennials benefit from more empathy in society? Is it just millennials who need to feel more caring from those around us? Who can benefit from deeper relationships? We all can. Did you see that trick from Simon? Many of us have been thinking the whole time during those videos and this message, whew, this message is all about them. It's all about those millennial people that need to get their acts together. Well, here's the plot twist. This message is for all of us. We all have room for improvement. Yeah, I read some interesting research from PhD Dr. Gene Twenge about breaking screen addictions. Do you know what it takes? Do you know how to help someone who spends too much time peering into their screen? Do anything that does not involve a screen. It's that easy. Don't overthink it. It's not complicated. Walk the dog? Yeah, that works. Take a walk in the park? Yes, that works too. How about a bike ride? Yeah, it works. A face-to-face conversation? Yes, it works. You know, the Bible considers empathy so important that it's part of something known as the Great Commandment. Jesus replied, "Love the Lord, your God, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is very much like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments." So why is this called the Great Commandment? You know, it's summarized on the landing page of our JourneyConnection.com website as love God, love people. It's that simple. But as we look again at verse 40, it says all the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. If this isn't a way of saying, if you don't do this, nothing else matters, it sure is close. And that is where the power of the simplicity of the two phrases lies. Love God, love people. You know, you can even think, well, gee, it's hard to love people without loving God. And that's often true because people can make us angry and they can frustrate us. But when we remember every person we come in contact with is a child of God, just like we are, if we love God, it becomes more natural to love each of his people. Now, one challenge before we can love others is we have to love ourselves. Said another way, you have to be comfortable with who you are as a person. The great news is that this does not require a video clip. It does not require a PhD, and you don't even have to give a TED Talk. All you need is as simple as ABC. To be able to love yourself and love others as yourself, simply admit that you have sinned and fallen short of God's plan for your life. Then believe that God sent Jesus down to earth in human form to die on a cross, to make up for your sin while bringing you back into relationship with him. And commit your life to living like Jesus. That's all it takes. A, B, C, admit, believe, commit. Will you do this today? Let me pray. Dear God, we just thank you for this time together. We thank you for this technology that we have to be able to broadcast this message, oh God. And we just thank you for the talented leaders that were part of this message and the idea that by having more empathy, by relating better to each other, by spending time together away from the screens and social media, that we can live the way God and his son Jesus intended for us to live. And God, for anyone who has never really realized it's as simple as ABC, we welcome them into your family today if they prayed that prayer for the first time. And we just ask that you would help them to grow in their faith and grow closer to you. Thanks for this opportunity. It's in your name we pray. Amen.